cry when I deleted the app, not when I removed my credit card from the account, not when I changed the billing address, not when I transferred the remaining balance out of the joint expense account I had quietly maintained for 4 years without a single person in my family ever asking where the money came from. I just sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee that had gone cold, and I made a list. The list wasn't long. That was the part that surprised me. My brother's rent, $2,400 a month. His wife's car payment, $680. Their streaming subscriptions, gym memberships, the grocery delivery service my sister-in-law used 3 times a week because she said regular grocery stores gave her anxiety, another $340, give or take. My mother's phone plan, the one with the unlimited international calling she used to gossip with her sister in Florida, $89. The biannual, emergency transfers that weren't emergencies, the Vegas trip my brother needed to recover from stress, the spa weekend my sister-in-law took with her friends because she had been so overwhelmed lately. I wrote those down too. 4 years. Approximately $187,000. I folded the paper and put it in the drawer under my silverware, and then I went to bed. I want to be honest about something before I tell you the rest of this. I was not a martyr. I did not give all of that money while secretly resenting every dollar. At the beginning it felt like the right thing to do. My brother Marcus had lost his job during a bad stretch, and his wife Diane had just had their first baby. And my mother had called me crying, and I had said yes before she even finished asking. That was who I was back then, the kind of person who said yes before the question was finished. I was 28. I had spent 3 years building a small but solid digital consulting practice, working from my apartment, taking calls at 6 in the morning and finishing proposals at midnight. I wasn't wealthy, but I was, for the first time in my life, stable. And stability, I would learn, looks like a resource to people who don't have it. The problem wasn't that I helped. The problem was that I helped quietly. I never sat Marcus down and said, I am paying your rent. I am covering your car. I set up an LLC called Clearwater Solutions, and yes, if you are watching this and you are Marcus, that is what the payments were from, that is what the name meant, and I routed money through it every month so there would be no awkward conversation, no power dynamic, no debt. I told myself I was protecting his dignity. What I was actually doing was building a wall between myself and the truth. Because when you give quietly, people don't receive it quietly. They receive it as normal. The rent gets paid and they think, good, the rent got paid. The car doesn't get repossessed. And they think, of course it didn't. We're adults. Things work out. My mother got a new phone plan and she thought, I deserve this. Not once, not in 4 years, did any of them ask how things were going for me. Not one birthday card. Not one dinner where someone reached for the check and said, let me get this one. I flew home for Thanksgiving 2 years ago, and my mother spent 45 minutes telling me about a vacation my brother and Diane were planning, and then asked me to pick up more butter on my way back from the store. I drove to the store. I bought the butter. The wedding was my nephew's. Tyler, my brother's oldest from his first relationship, not Diane's kid, which had always been a point of quiet tension in the family. Tyler was 23, working at a landscaping company, genuinely kind in the way that some young men are kind before the world gets to them. He was marrying a woman named Priya, and I liked her immediately when I met her at Christmas. She had a directness to her that I recognized. My brother called me in February to talk about the wedding. Mom and I were talking, he said, and we think it might be better if you just came to the reception, not the ceremony. I was standing in my kitchen. I remember the light was very white that morning, the kind of winter light that makes everything look clean and a little harsh. I'm sorry? It's a small ceremony. Very intimate. Just immediate family and Priya's people. Marcus, I said. I am immediate family. Right, but look, Diane and Mom both feel like you can be a little. He paused. I could hear him searching for the word. Intense. At family events. And Tyler and Priya want everything to be calm. Intense. I had spoken exactly 4 times at any family event in recent memory. Once to compliment my mother's cooking. Once to ask about Tyler's new job. Once to gently mention, during a discussion about credit cards, That high-interest revolving debt compounds faster than most people realize. And once this is the one they meant, I knew it immediately. To tell Diane, quietly and privately, that I didn't think it was appropriate for her to have posted about my income on her Facebook page without asking me. That was it. That was intense. "I'll think about it," I said. "Great," Marcus said with the relief of a man who has confused politeness for agreement. "We'll have a great time at the reception. Diane's planning the seating and everything, it'll be really nice." I hung up, and I sat down on my couch and I looked at the ceiling for a long time. Here's what I did not do. I did not call my mother. I did not text Marcus. I did not send Diane a message asking for an explanation, though I had about 47 things I could have said. I had learned, over 4 years, that explanations only give people more material. You say, "I was hurt by this." And they say, "See, this is exactly what we mean. You're always making things about yourself." So I had stopped explaining. What I did instead was call my attorney. Her name is Rebecca, and she is extremely calm in the way that only people who have seen genuine chaos can be calm. I had used her when I first set up Clearwater Solutions, and again when I restructured it 2 years in. She knew the full picture. "Walk me through what you want to happen," she said. I walked her through it. The mechanics were actually simpler than I had expected. Clearwater Solutions was my LLC. I was the sole member. The payments to Marcus and Diane had come through it, but they were gifts. I had filed them correctly, paid the gift tax on amounts over the annual exclusion, kept clean records. Which meant they had no legal claim to anything. Which meant I could stop at any time. I had also, without fully realizing what I was doing at the time, structured things in a way that Rebecca pointed out was quite elegant. The car Marcus drove was leased, and the lease was in Clearwater's name with my personal guarantee. I had done this originally because his credit was poor and the dealer needed a guarantor. What it meant now was that the lease was mine to cancel at my discretion with 60 days' notice. I gave the notice the same afternoon I called Rebecca. The apartment was trickier. Marcus and Diane had signed their own lease. That was in their name. I had simply been making the payments, so I could not take the apartment. But I could stop paying. And when I stopped paying, they would have to cover it themselves or face eviction. I drafted a letter. Rebecca helped me word it, informing them that effective the 1st of the following month, the Clearwater Solutions payment would be discontinued, and I wished them the best in their transition. I also, for reasons I'll explain in a moment, changed my personal cell phone number, my email address, and the mailing address on every account my family had ever had access to. Then I went to Tyler's wedding reception. Because Tyler had not done anything to me. Tyler was a 23-year-old kid who was just trying to get married, and he had no idea what had been happening behind the scenes, and he deserved to have his aunt there in a nice dress, smiling at his first dance. The ceremony, I had not been invited to. Fine. I arrived at the reception venue at 6 o'clock, and I want to describe the room to you because it matters. It was beautiful. My brother and my mother had spent, according to what my mother had told me over the phone in January, so much money, you can't imagine. Crystal centerpieces, a photo booth with a velvet curtain, an open bar with a signature cocktail named after the couple, a 5-piece band. I had not been asked to contribute to any of this. I found out later, through Tyler himself, that Clearwater Solutions had made a $12,000 payment to the wedding venue in October, which my brother had classified in his own mind as an investment in family. He had not mentioned this to the venue. He had not mentioned it to Priya's family, who believed they were splitting costs equally. He had not mentioned it to Tyler. I sat at my assigned table. It was near the back, next to the bar, which I chose to view as a feature rather than a slight. Priya looked beautiful. Tyler cried during the first dance, the good kind of crying, and I was glad I was there for it. My mother found me about an hour in. She looked wonderful, actually. She was wearing a dress I didn't recognize, which was new, and earrings I had seen before, which were the diamond studs my father had given her before he died. She had been doing her hair differently recently, which I knew because I had seen her on video call. She looked like a woman who was having a wonderful evening. "You made it," she said. There was something in her voice that was almost surprise and almost something else that I couldn't name. "Of course," I said. "I wouldn't miss Tyler's wedding. It was a beautiful ceremony," she said. "Very intimate." She smoothed the front of her dress. I'm glad it stayed small. Some of these big weddings just lose the meaning. I nodded. Your brother is doing so well, she said. He just seems really settled. Diane's been such a good influence. That's great, I said. I've been thinking. She tilted her head in the way she did when she was about to say something she had already decided and was framing as a thought. You should really consider dating someone. Settle down. You spend so much time on your work and it's not, the money is nice, but it's not everything. I looked at her. The money is nice, I said. You know what I mean. I do, I said. I actually know exactly what you mean. She must have heard something in my voice because she paused. Are you all right? I'm fine, I said. I'm going to get some water. Enjoy the party. I got the water. I danced at one point with Tyler, who spun me around and said, Aunt Nadia, you look amazing, and I felt, very briefly, purely happy. Then the evening wound down, and I hugged Tyler and I shook Priya's hand and told her she had a good one. And I drove home. The letter arrived at Marcus's apartment on a Thursday. I know this because he called my old cell phone number 4 times between 10 and 11 in the morning, and then called my mother, and my mother called my old number, and then at noon, Diane posted a vague Facebook status about people who smile to your face and stab you in the back, which I did not see until a mutual friend screenshotted it and sent it to my new number with a string of question marks. I did not respond. On Friday, Marcus showed up at my apartment building. I know this because my building has a video intercom and I could see him standing at the entrance, and I watched him press my buzzer 7 times. I did not answer. Eventually, he left. On Saturday morning, my mother called my new number. I don't know how she got it. My mother has resources I have never fully understood. What have you done? She said. I had been prepared for this conversation. I had thought about it carefully. I had decided that I would not be cruel, and I would not be dramatic, and I would not give her anything to reframe. I've stopped paying for things I was paying for, I said. Silence. You can't do this, she said. I already did. Marcus is 36 years old, I said. He needs to talk to his landlord and make a payment arrangement. He needs to call the leasing company about the car. He has time. I gave 60 days notice. We didn't know, she said, and her voice was different now. Quieter. We didn't know it was you. I know, I said. Another silence. How long? She asked. 4 years? I heard her breath go out. 4 years. Yes. Why didn't you tell us? And here's the thing I had not expected. The question made me tired rather than angry. Not tired like I wanted to hang up. Tired like I had been carrying something for a long time and I had finally set it down, and my muscles hadn't adjusted yet to the absence of the weight. I told myself it was to protect Marcus's dignity, I said, but I think the real reason is that I already knew, somewhere, that if you knew it was me, things would change. That I would become useful instead of family, and I didn't want to know that for certain. I paused. I know it now. She started to say something. I think she was going to say I was wrong, that it wasn't like that. That of course she valued me for more than my money. She might have even believed it, but I had watched her at the reception, glowing and comfortable in a room that I had quietly helped pay for, telling me that money wasn't everything. I have to go, I said. I hope you're well. I hung up. Marcus and Diane found a smaller apartment. It took them a month to figure out the finances, and, from what Tyler told me, Tyler, who called me himself and apologized on behalf of no one except himself, which I respected, it was a very hard month. Diane went back to work, which she had not done in 2 years. Marcus picked up a second client in his freelance work, which apparently he was more than capable of doing when he had no other option. The car was returned to the leasing company. He got a used Civic. I know this only because I saw a photo on Tyler's Instagram. My mother and I do not speak often now. We are not estranged, exactly. I called her on her birthday in April, and she cried a little, and she said she was sorry, which was the first time she had ever said that to me in my adult life, so I gave it some weight. I said thank you. We talked for 20 minutes about ordinary things. It wasn't warm the way I used to wish it would be. But it was honest. That was new. Here's what I want you to understand, if you are watching this and you recognize any part of the story. The money was never the point. I have rebuilt Clearwater Solutions. I have 3 new clients. I am, financially, fine. What I could not rebuild while I was still in the middle of it was my own sense of what I deserved. When you are the person who always covers the bill, always drives the extra mile, always says yes before the question is finished, you start to believe, on some level, that this is your function, that this is what makes you worth keeping around. It took being uninvited from my nephew's wedding ceremony to show me with complete clarity that I had been worth keeping around for a very long time, and none of it had anything to do with Clearwater Solutions. I still have the list in my silverware drawer. I look at it sometimes, not with anger anymore, just with a kind of recognition. That was the price of a lesson. I consider it paid. Tyler and Priya came to dinner at my apartment last month. She brought wine. He brought a card that said in his handwriting, which is terrible, "Thanks for being the cool one." I put it on my refrigerator. That was enough. That was more than enough.